These looming tariffs have our longtime allies alarmed. It's uncharted territory, and it's creating a lot of anxiety across the globe right now. Trump says these tariffs are to prevent countries like Mexico, Canada, and China from ripping us off. So now some of America's top trade partners are coming up with a possible plan to retaliate.
Europe holds a lot of cards, from trade to technology to the size of our market. But this strength is also built on our readiness to take firm countermeasures if necessary.
From one old guy to another old guy. Stop this nonsense.
Our foreign correspondent, Tom Soufi Burridge, is on the story from Paris. So, Tom, let's talk about Europeans and how they're preparing for these tariffs right now.
Yeah, the European Union, Kira, says it has a plan to retaliate if necessary against the US if Donald Trump does announce more significant tariffs against European exports to the United States. I think the tone from the EU, though, is still that they would prefer to sit around the table and negotiate this out. They don't want more tariffs announced by Donald Trump tonight, and then they will feel compelled to announce another range of retaliatory measures against US goods going to Europe. And I also think it's important to note that, yes, the EU has a trade surplus in goods with the United States, so the EU sells more goods to the United States than the United States sells to Europe. But in services, a massively important part of the US economy, there is a surplus the other way. So, I think at the moment, the European Union hasn't ruled out taking action against services companies, tech companies in particular, US companies operating in Europe. And that, I think, at the moment, they haven't gone there. But at the moment, we've only heard from the European Union that they are lining up other types of tariffs in response for the tariffs already announced by the Trump administration, which would impact the European market.
But couldn't that become an issue for the U.S.?
It really could. And actually, we've had a sort of earlier, a few weeks ago, we heard from the Vice President J.D. Vance when he was in Paris, and he seemed to, in a quite guarded comment, he seemed to warn against Europe taking that type of action. So I think that appears to be, if things escalate, if this trade war, escalates tonight in a significant way, if Donald Trump announces very, very significant tariffs which really impact the European market, it doesn't mean that the European Union will immediately go for measures that would impact the services sector, the American services sector, tech companies operating in here in Europe. They might just, again, look at certain goods which the US is selling into Europe, which they've already done. They've already lined up a load of tariffs against Harley-Davidson motorbikes, against bourbon whiskey, those types of things. Although, interestingly, they delayed the implementation of those tariffs until after tonight's announcement. So I think they'll be watching tonight, seeing how severe it is, and then coming up with their response. Kira?
All right, Tom Soufi Burridge, we'll track it with you. Thanks, Tom.